But what are the other reasons why? If there is none, that's okay. I mean, we covered a ton of it, but what else would be the why?
Why not?
Hell yeah. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Heck yeah. Today's episode of the RV Voice is brought to you by Bish Fix. Ever been stuck with an RV issue miles from the nearest service center? With Bish Fix, expert help is just a video call away, saving you time, money, and keeping you on the road. Try Bish Fix risk-free with a 14-day free trial and use promo code RVVoice at checkout to get 60% off the full retail price. Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the RV Voice. And today we have a new guest for you. We have a full-timers. They've been doing it for almost 5 years now. They're traveling in their second RV, a Heartland Cyclone, a big old pig behind them, about 44 foot. And they're going to tell us how they did it, how they do it, and then how they started and all that. So let's open to the Traveling Titans. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. Welcome, Sam and Blake. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you
for having us.
Absolutely. So I'm going to break right into it if you guys are cool with that. I kind of want to know the personal journey. So like what inspired you guys to go transition to full time? Because it sounds like you have a military background and I haven't heard much from you, Sam, on that, but we'll get into it right here. So can you share your whole story of how you first got started RVing and then just kind of what inspired you to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we tell this story a lot. So I try to make it exciting, but because we've been telling it for 5 years, but we met in Northern Virginia and I had my career going. He was in the military and we kind of went through the stages, bought the house, bought the cars, had the baby, got married, had the babies. And that was not all in that order. But we had kind of that like American dream, like had it all. We were living in Northern Virginia, specifically Leesburg, actually. And, I don't know, it was like a work trip or something. I came back and something just triggered me to I think actually it was our nanny came up and our son, he was under 1 and he did something. I don't remember what it was, but a milestone and I missed it. And even though we both worked from home and we were able to be present more than a lot of folks that don't work from home, we were still missing these milestones. And I couldn't process why, what are we missing here? And we talked about leaving the Northern Virginia area for quite a while, but we never could land on a place that we both want to go. And so through a couple of it popped up and it was like, hey, can we live in one of those things? And did a little bit of research and I was like, I think you can. This is all right pre-COVID. And so I kind of presented it to him. I had all my data and ducks in a row because I was like, he's never going to go for this. And I think I got out I don't know, the first 5 sentences and he's like, okay. I was like, what do you mean, okay? And he's like, sure, And I was like, it would be a great way for us to travel for 2 years before our kids need to be in school, see the United States, and maybe we can find a place that we want to live. And so our 2-year trip started and we sold everything. That's my take on how we got started in RV life.
Yeah, I think the only details really that are missing is previous to us having kids, we had planned, a 1 month road trip just to travel the country. We used to always travel together before we had kids, literally late, all those things that couples who've been together do all the time. Like, hey, let's just fly somewhere tomorrow or, those types of deals. Let's go to Las Vegas. But we had planned out this big trip and just renting, a cruise car or an RV or something to travel around for a month. And at the last minute, work came up. Yep. Work came up for her actually. And, it was a die hard, we need you right in front of us type thing, even though she had been working remotely. And
that's a big executive meeting.
That postponed trip turned into more fires. And, regardless of how tight she was with this organization and, she was working in the executive leadership at this point, they didn't care. We had missed out on something that, we had shared with them, even that this was important to us and they didn't care. So when this came up, it was kind of a full circle evolution for us. And now we had children. And for me personally, just I came back from overseas and, she was done with me doing that lifestyle. And, I started working in corporate sales and kind of just working for money. And some of it I enjoyed, but really it was my purpose and kind of the parasitic nature of money, being in big city and, all those drivers, I was just in hell. So this was an easy thing for me. And I didn't spend a lot of time thinking I felt that I lost a lot of my purpose outside of having my family. But I thought, like, I guess that's just what you do, is like try to make as much money as possible and sacrifice to do that. And that's what's important. And it really rotted at me for a while. So when this came up and we started really seriously looking at it and how we're going to better live our lives with our kids, it just was like, perfect. Say less, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. Like, we announced it to our friends the end of January at our son's first birthday, and they thought we were lunatics. But it wasn't surprising because, like, we are always a little crazy. But, they were like, oh, you're going to save a bunch of money, huh? You guys are going to keep your jobs and you're going to, like, save all this money. And I was like, what? That was one response. One was like, are you having money troubles? Then
you must be losing it.
News, like what are you running from? Those were like the questions. But
a lot of people just say, like, well, I could never do that because again, it's like, in their heads, like, big house, I need this big house, I need these cars, I need these things. And we had a select amount of friends that were like, yeah, this is crazy, but I'm not surprised, like, that's who you guys are. And those are the friends I felt even more enriched by, because they weren't even thinking about themselves. They were just thinking about the values that we carry in our regular life and how this is an extension of that. And, I think it was a good reminder of why we were leaving the area. And, we weren't leaving the people, or we weren't leaving a situation or anything like that. It was just like, this is where our life is taking us and our values are taking us. Let's start doing that all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just enjoying it on these weekends here and there, or, on the Friday night through Sunday, which for me is really only Saturday because Friday, it's like you're decompressing. Saturday, you get some work done. Sunday, the anxiety of Monday starts to pour back on you. And it was just like, those are not fun, right? Yeah. Like, even liking jobs, it's still like, man, I'm barely even able to unwind at all. And here I am going back to work.
You're preaching to the choir. You're preaching to the choir, man. every Sunday, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing?
It's the Sundays, man. The Sundays are the worst. So you're like, what did I miss out on this whole week? But anyways,
I heard an older guy at my job talking about it. He had been in this sales organization for like 30 years. And he still was saying, like, how much he feels anxiety and just irritation on Sundays. And I'm like, if it didn't get better for that guy, it's not going to, be any better for me. Like, I'm not going to all of a sudden do a better job than this guy's been doing.
Yeah.
So it was just those reality checks and, making the decision to take another path and knowing that you can always go back. That's the big thing I think people are afraid of, is like, oh, I lost all my opportunities. Like, life typically isn't that fragile, especially when it comes to corporate America.
No, not at all. You can always get a job. Like, I have a background in sales, and like, I was always good at that. I mean, I've always been good at sales. And I was like, worst case scenario, if I were to like bail out, I can find a job tomorrow. Like, I'm not worried about it at all. You guys, it seems like you have your values in order, because a lot of people just forget that, like, life happens at all times. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. Like you said, you missed out on some really pivotal moments of your child's lives because you're going to the 9-to-5, the normality of everything. You need a big house, you need a nice car, whatever it may be. That's why I love talking to people like you guys, because you guys understand that life is short. It is. It's a finite piece of whatever it is. Like, it's not going to last forever. And if you're not around for the things that really matter to you, it sucks. Right. So I really appreciate your outlook on that. And I'm throw this up here. Oh no, I did it wrong, but it's okay. It works. If you guys haven't followed these guys, they do a lot of good stuff, and they show their life on the road and why they get to do this and why they do this. So hit them a follow right there, and we'll keep those things coming up every once in a while. But so yeah, absolutely. So moving on to the next part, like, this was kind of a bearing thing for you, Guy, anxious, emotional. It was a big decision to do so. Stepping out of corporate America, you came from the Marine Corps. It sounds like this is a big change for you guys. So how did you prep and plan to do this? Because this is not an easy step out of the normality of life into an RV, which you've never done before. So what are the steps did you take to do the full-time thing, and how did you choose your first RV? And what advice would you give someone to selecting one for the first time?
Yeah, so I'll take this one, and you can add in. First, I didn't actually leave corporate America until just recently. So, which I think we'll get to that maybe later on. But I just was going to continue working remote and just traveling while we worked remote. So we definitely knew we needed an RV that I would be able to have some quietness. to be able to take work calls and to actually work. And when we launched, our kids were 1 and 2. So they were just little babies. I mean, they were tiny. And I started to talk about it earlier. We decided this in January of 2020. So our goal was to like be out in like into like early spring, mid-spring, say April. And I don't know if you remember what that time of year was, 2020 was. Like that was COVID. Like that was the start of COVID.
Day zero.
2 weeks after we told our friends that we were going to do this, like then COVID, landed in America, and it obviously created complete chaos and pandemonium. Like it was insane because it was like, we're going to sell our stuff, then we're going to, we talked to our realtor, then we'll sell the house, then we'll move into the RV. It'd be great. Yeah, no, it all like backwards because we were like, we're doing this no matter what. Like we're going, and maybe there'll be less people camping. I also want to add, like, we'd never RV'd before ever. Like we made this jump, and like he'd never towed a rig, a trailer, anything. And I'm not kidding you. Like we hooked up and towed our 43-foot fifth wheel like the first time. Just it was crazy. So
to like the Midwest,
yeah.
That was like strict,
All
yeah.
By myself with 2 babies, a teenager, and 2 dogs.
Yeah, because I had another car.
Yeah, she was in our other car, like texting the road. So it was like a lot.
It was crazy. So we ended up like we sold our house quickly because we were worried the market might like crash. And then we found the RV. And I guess how I'll talk about our RV buying was like, I started studying models. Like I obviously used RV Trader, hopped on and looked at models, looked at like room options, looked at flexibility. We actually, we've been raising our nephew for a couple of years, and he came on it with us, and he was 13 or 14 when we started. So he needed a teenage boy space. So we, once I nailed down kind of a couple of models, I then was like, okay, we need to go see them. And this is my advice. I like stand by it, is like, for the last 4 years, like find an RV show that's near you versus a dealer if you can. Find an RV show, go to the RV show and walk through as many RVs as you possibly can. Like be completely open-minded. Look at, you have your list of all these things, but you may find that you get, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. Class A actually could have bunks or whatever it is, right? And go and walk through and get a feel. You'll learn so much about what you want and don't want at an RV show. That's a large show with multiple dealers and multiple manufacturers. If you can't do that, then I recommend going to a dealership that carries more than just 2 or 3 manufacturers. Oftentimes dealers will have just, one main company that they manufacturer they work with, and they'll have a few like littles. But if you go to one of the big ones, you'll find that there's so many options to look at. Just leave your checkbook and your ID at home when you go, because RV sales guys are really good. So, and you really want to do right. Exactly. And you want to do research because listen, like manufacturers will throw out like the best new model and it's outstanding, but you might not want it. You might want the second year because they let them work out some of the kinks because nothing's perfect. Like, so anyways, we went to our RV show. We nailed down to like 2 or 3 different models. And then because of COVID, we were able to take advantage of a used camper because it made the most sense for us. Like the model we ended up with a Voltage 4205, which is a a mid-bunk toy hauler. There's only a couple of them and they're really all made. So that was like so key for us. Well, there weren't many around. And so because of COVID, they wanted to sell their RV. We got to buy it on the cheap. So that's kind of how we started. And like, I think my advice is like,
look used though. That's a big one you say. And I think that's, it's like do your research and then go with the amount of knowledge that you have. And hopefully your partner or whomever you're with is doing their research. Yeah. And then I take all of that and go to a bunch of dealers and ask them questions. And then I look at the data that intersects and where are the areas that were the same and then where are the areas that were different. And then I try to understand more about the differences.
Yeah.
And then after that, you can feel like, with no experience, you have a pretty reputable amount of knowledge going into rigs and lifestyles. For sure, like she said, seeing a bunch of rigs is great. I would also say being very critical about the places you go. Like before, the first couple of dealers we went to were like, oh, it seems like they have some inventory we're interested in. And we went there. But there were all these other signs that were kind of red flags about not going to a dealer like that and wasting an hour drive there.
Yeah.
Just things like when you're talking to people on the phone that they also sell like trucks to tow the rigs with, things like that. Like for sure dealers will tell you like, oh, this vehicle for sure it's going to be able to tow this. Like, they're not experts on that. You know, it's not a one-stop shop solution, especially when you're just coming there with your own unique lifestyle. They're not always going to answer your questions. So developing a criteria around what a good dealership looks like, and places that recommend you to get independent inspections, and that places that really just arm you with good information so you can independently make a good choice. Those are the types of places that we really looked for, because then we know maybe there's a chance that they'll tell us like, here are some other things to consider that might back us out of the deal. And, you know, developing a good relationship or being able to eyeball a good dealership or places that are making recommendations to you was just as valuable as seeing a bunch of different rigs at an RV show. At least for me, it was.
And I think that on that, like, and especially because like you're associated with the dealership, like, I think it's okay for us to have this conversation, frankly. Like, when we were purchasing this RV that we just bought last year, we talked to 9 or 10 different RV dealerships. I say I interviewed them because I could tell within a phone call whether they knew what they were talking about or whether they were going to give me the runaround. And we've talked about this, but like maybe we actually need to do it, is like developing like kind of like a cheat sheet on how to talk to, like, what to ask your RV dealer to know. Like, if your dealer doesn't understand the difference between a 7,000 and 8,000 pound axle, or whether the hangers are reinforced, like, that's a problem. Your sales guys should know that. I don't care that, you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of value in understanding that, because it's just like a used car dealership in some ways, that you go in and the guy that's selling it to you might not know everything about that, you know, Pontiac Grand Am, because they've never sold one before. So it's
and with big trucks, they don't know.
Yeah, I know.
You know, when you start looking at dualies or just trying to understand how the gross vehicle weight rating works, you know, these are things that come up with your rig, because obviously, you know, one thing I don't think people realize is you don't want to just cram in as much as will fit. So, you know,
That's how we learned that.
The research will start telling you things.
Yeah.
And the dealer should be experts on those things. And often you'll see these basic conversation points, they're not. And there's a lot of people who don't know to ask because they didn't do that prior research. And those are the areas where people can really, all you're doing is protecting yourself and ensuring that you're getting a good product, because you want to find those holes. And there's going to be things up front sometimes that are very manageable, but you want to make sure you know what they are, and you're not learning when you're actually just getting on the road. Yeah. You know, create an as preventable situation as possible. And, you know, but again, it's research and little things like, for me, understanding how to drive the rig and manipulate it. Or, you know, tow the rig rather and manipulate it. I looked up stuff on YouTube. Like, I looked at what are semi-truck drivers doing. And guess what? There's a bunch of people who are passionate about driving truck who put a lot of good tutorials in there to help me understand different maneuvers and things like that. And all that stuff's out there. You know, it's really like, if you want to change, part of the good, successful changes for us was being passionate about the research and kind of just eating the elephant one bite at a time. Like, how do we find a good rig? How do we find a good truck? How do we drive those things? How do we maintain them? And, you know, slowly the knowledge base starts to grow over time, and camping actually becomes very, very manageable and a lot of fun, you know, because you feel secure.
Well, y'all are about 95% more educated than most people that I know within this, because you've done your research. A lot of people, I mean, they walk in the door. So being a salesman myself, I wasn't the one to sell you something you couldn't pull. I couldn't do that logically, mentally, whatever, for my own conscience. I just couldn't do it. I'm like, no, I mean, like, you can't tow it. I'm not going to sell it to you. Or if I don't like you, I'm just not going to sell you a trailer. I won't do it because I know what's going to happen later on. But you guys did the research, and that's, you know, there's a slew of information out there. I mean, the internet, you can just type in whatever you want, question this, question that, whatever it may be, it's going to pop up for you. There are dealers, like you were saying, it definitely is. Picking the right dealer does make a lot of sense. You got to find the one that's going to be comfortable with. And if it's spread out, if it's a single mom and pop shop, awesome. You're probably going to get great service. Problem is, it's only one spot, you know, so there's a lot of different ways and angles to look at this. Yeah. But, you know, being as educated as yourselves, and then not even being in RVing before, I'm sure this kind of happened a little after the fact. Like, you've researched a ton since you bought, right? Even more. So your second RV was like, this is really where you're at. So
and you realize everything's going to break. Like, everything is going to break at different times. And so when you have that mentality, and like, the other thing I'm going to plug our DMs for 1 second here. Like, we answer those questions over and over and over. Like, ask someone if you can't find the right information and you feel like your dealer might not be, like if your dealer might not be, you know, on the up and up, or you've got some sort of feeling, send me a DM. Send whoever you follow a DM that's been doing this, because you can smell bad from a long ways away. And we know, I mean, when somebody tells me they're planning on using their 3/4 ton to pull a 44 foot in a single rear, like, no, come on. Who's telling you that's okay when they're, you know, there's just silly things. But also, like, you know, my whatever is soft, my floor soft. Like, people send us questions like that all the time, and we give lots of free advice on that stuff, because at the end of the day, like, the more people that are doing this, like, I don't complain that there's more people doing it. I don't complain. I love that there's more people doing it, because I know that those people are getting a satisfaction in their life. Yeah, maybe it's harder to find this campsite in this great location. But the more of us that are out here, the better the support's going to become. And I'm on a tangent, but that also means that the dealers and that the people that are providing service have had to improve, because people are like, they have to. I mean, I remember our first year specifically, we were talking about Coeur d'Alene before. We had to have service there, and this woman who had just become a tech came in for like 2 hours away to fix our water heater, and we had no hot water, and she couldn't fix it. And I had to pay her because I was kind of new and like I didn't really know. And I ended up fixing it later, that like a day later or something like that, myself via YouTube. But now, like, that doesn't happen, you know. Like, I know when I call somebody to come do service, if I need to have somebody come in from outside, I've got like a list of questions so I can know whether they know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? So anyways, yeah.
You have that list somewhere for people to link into or see?
That's the thing.
We'll get it up.
All these free
monetize.
You know, the community is great on that, to your point. And even what you're doing with the podcast, like, there are a lot of people who are super jacked up about, you know, living this lifestyle and just being outside, but there's so much community around that as well. And oftentimes, sometimes to a fault, people will stop and give you free advice. If they see you struggling, like, you're not, you know, even during COVID, it wasn't like we started and we were completely alone at all times. Like, people are super friendly, and they do have a lot more time to sit and interact with you and talk about things. So, you know, I think it's a rational fear to be worried, like, we're going to get on the road and we can't handle if something happens. But know that there's a community that you're involved in, and it's simply joined by the fact that you're out there with a campsite. And, you know, that's kind of the qualification. Like, you're camping, you're being an outdoor enthusiast. So there's a lot of good information out there to be had, and asking is like literally half the battle.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's just tough. I mean, every single RV, for the most part, you guys have probably come to know this, besides different models and like different floor plans and stuff like that. I mean, they're all basically the same. And I got kind of ridiculed a couple times for that, but I'm like, guys, come on, break it down. Like, if it's not a Northwoods product or a Lance product or a Brinkley, you know, or a Revo bus or something like that, you know, it's like, for the most part, same. They all have the same appliances. They're all built very similarly. There's obviously little intricacies and differences here and there, but I mean, they have all the same appliances. So if something's going to break, it's not if, it's when. It will break. You guys know that.
Yep.
People can help, but getting the right people to help for services is tough. We do have Bistrix. I'm going to do a little Bistrix plug here. So if you guys want to join Bistrix, you get a membership pricing, 1480 free trial if you use promo code RVVoice. So that being said, moving on from there. All right. So I got to do those things for this. But anyway, so so your daily life and routine has changed a little bit. It sounds like you had the corporate lifestyle, and I don't know if it went remote. We'll get into that. But like, what does a typical day look like for you guys when you're RVing? And then how do you manage everyday tasks such as cooking, cleaning, laundry on the road, job wise, whatever it may be? Just kind of walk us through that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we wake up, we make our coffee. So
good start.
Traveling with kids is a little bit different, but like on non-travel days, I mean, it's a lot of the same as far as, you know, our morning routine is just kind of like everybody else's that lives in a normal house, literally, except for we're not working. We don't work outside of the home. We don't work inside of the home really either, other than social media, which is 24/7. As I'm sure you're aware from just we're constantly developing and thinking, and exactly. So, which we don't have a consistent set schedule that, you know, from 9 to 12, the kids are doing homeschool, and 12 to 3, I'm doing, you know, content whatever. It's not like that. And quite frankly, I would say probably of most people we know that have the least amount of structure, which is a little surprising because coming from like he was a military brat and then he was in the military. So lived, but with a lot of structure. We don't have a ton of structure. So if, we want to go to a festival or we want to go for a hike at 8:00 in the morning, we can do that. But we're really big on making sure our kids are fed and fed well with good, solid food. So we like to do farmers markets. I feel like we spend so much time at the grocery store because we're, our food's like constantly going through. But I think
we have the normal list of things like, education, fitness, eating, fitness, fuel, exploration. And a lot of that is dictated by how long we're somewhere. And, if we're going to be somewhere longer, then those days of like get up, breakfast, lessons, first thing, get up, breakfast, fitness, first thing. But if we're coming and we just got somewhere, there's a lot more, hey, this is what the weather looks like. Let's take advantage of it. Let's get out and explore. Like we want to always pull the richness of the resources of the area.
Yes.
And there's academia everywhere. There's history everywhere. There's fitness opportunities, the outdoors. So, it sounds like there's not a lot of structure in the sense of that, but it's like those are the flows, and it's kind of like these short seasons of when we're somewhere else, like getting to the new place. Like there's a whole routine around that because we want to make sure we're getting our experience in, as well as like, here are the things that we need to do to make life work and go around and prosper. But those things, you really become synced on them, and they're always getting done. The cleaning, as you mentioned, like that's always happening. The floors are always being cleaned. The bathroom, stuff like that. Like you're kind of in that continuous cycle, especially laundry.
We do recommend a washer dryer. Like, I don't know, when I hear people who have full time with kids without a washer dryer, I don't know how they do it. They must live at the laundry place, because we do a load of laundry every single day because we just have a normal, the camper one. But floors, we actually had a dishwasher recently, and that was not one of like Blake's most exciting like upgrades to our RV. I've been doing a series of upgrades working with various brands, and that one I was really excited about. And I will say, like, now we love it. Like,
it's a nice to have.
Yeah, it like runs all day because you just load it and keep going. But
outside of like work, or I got my master's degree recently. For me, it's like we make our flexible the have-tos, especially when it comes to business. The have-tos, of course, take priority, but we try to use the flexibility that comes with that as much as possible. For me, it meant like working really early in the morning to get schoolwork done, but I didn't mind doing that because I wanted to make sure that all the time we were having the family experiences and having family time together to get through things. And working remotely, that's one of the things that for us, as Sam said, like, yes, we were home more, but one of the things that happened is we were also keyed into the accountability of how much we were missing. Because when you shut off and you like, oh, I'm out the door, now I'm clicked into the other part of my life, the office, the commute, all those things. Yes, we still have our minds on family, but it's like everything shifted there. Your whole other life's there. So you don't really have accountability on how much stuff you're missing with your family when you're not hearing them run around, laugh and cry without you, and know that, man, I have to stick to my computer for another 3 hours. That was one thing working remotely did for both of us, was give us that extreme accountability on everything else we were missing because we didn't have that other office life to go back to.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are in tune with this full-time RV life, like very well. Like, I get it. I mean, it's. I'm
just wondering if we talk too much. I'm like, are we talking
no, just let her rip. That's what it's here for. So, like for me, and like you say, it's the mundane of everything. I truthfully would love to be full-time. It's just not in the cards for me at the moment. Well, I could keep saying that. It's just an excuse, right? But,
if you're doing something want, right, which it sounds like you're growing, and those are the differences. Is like, I tell anybody, you can do this, make a plan and execute it. And if there's other things you want to do, then make a plan that works with all of that, so you can have all of it while you execute a plan to travel, or whatever your balance looks like. Some people, that balance is traveling once a quarter, and that's awesome. But it's about, I think, owning that portion of it, like owning what the goals are and the why, instead of taking comfort in the cultural acceptability of, man, you got another big house, and man, you got another promotion, and never talking about happiness or choice or what happens if something bad happens tomorrow and you pass away? You know, like,
Yeah.
where's the legacy at? You know, so I think that's a good thing too. Like, you know, definitely try not to beat yourself up too hard, because it's like
You'll get there.
you know, you just moved and you're making these things, and that's, you know, talking to people, you always hear those differences between, even if they're not traveling, people who have a plan for their happiness and people who don't.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the reasons we love talking about RVing, even though there's 1,000 ways to travel, it's like having a plan for happiness. That's just happiness, you know, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Do you think that was a byproduct though? Like, so I know like the plan was to be around your kids more often and see family and see life go on. Like, I mean, you be a part of these things, but do you think the happiness, I mean, everyone wants to be happy, right? That's the goal, to be happy. But like, was
No,
that like a,
people want to be rich. They think
when I'll be rich, I'll be happy. Yeah.
Exactly. You're right.
Yeah. But like at what cost, you know? But do you think that was kind of a byproduct that like you just kind of floated into happiness?
I think we knew this is what we wanted to do, and I don't think happiness was as prevalent in our minds at the time. Like, we just knew, like, this is what's gonna be best for us, and we planned well around that. And yeah, I'm shocked at how happy it made us, because again, we're like, oh, we'll do it a couple years, it'll be so great, and now it's like torn down the house, and there's this whole structure of, we don't need to be afraid of doing things our style. You know, like all those people who are doing things on their own and starting the business and have the life that they say they wanted, like they're no different than anybody else. You know, work, you know, as far as researching and executing the plan. But yeah, now that this is torn down, like our whole lives are like, you know, constantly telling people like, if we really want that, we'll go back to it. You know, like if we find out we're lacking, we'll go back to it. It'll be there. This freedom now and the stressors that are coming away and further prioritizing what we know we want because we're getting more of it. I think it was a byproduct. I think it was a part of the plan. We just didn't realize how big of a part of the plan it was going to be. You know, it's surprising what happens when you start, you know, down that journey of just focusing on kind of yourself and your close circle above all else, instead of the different paths that I think society has told us we need to take to get there.
Yeah. The societal norm, right? Just the 9 to 5, got to have a house, got to be married by this time. You got to have kids by this time. That's why I'm not in Nebraska no more. The Midwest was very prevalent for that. And it just wasn't for me. I was like, there's so much more out there, guys. Like, but whatever, it is what it is. So I've heard, you're not the only ones that I've heard this, like, we're going to do a 1-year road trip in an RV. And turns out to be much more than that, which happened to you guys. But along that way, challenges happen. Right. You guys never been RVing before. This thing turns out, you know, every trip you take, something else is wrong ish, you know, every other, whatever it may be. But there's challenges and there's solutions along the way. So you had to find out what those solutions are. So what are some of the biggest challenges you faced while RVing, or since you started into RVing, and how did you overcome them? And how do you handle maintenance and repairs while RVing? Because that's another totally different aspect that people don't understand. This is your home on wheels. You can't just call the HVAC guy, hey, come on out. You know, it doesn't work like that. So how did you guys go about that?
We did do that one time, and it was a plumber. But that's it. Like I couldn't get a plumber, and we had really an issue. And it was, again, we didn't know what we know now. And the guy showed up, like, he's like, yeah, I can work on RVs. Yeah. And like, which he did, just to be clear, he did, but he had to go and get a couple parts that he didn't carry with him. So, but yes, like an HVAC guy would not know how to work on our, anyways, struggles. I think like getting like accepting that things break. Like, I know I've said this already, but like that is a huge thing. And as a like kind of type A perfectionist, like, you know, and who's paid in the past for better quality, like I'm going to pay for the nicer and it won't break. Like I'm going to buy the nicer this so that it doesn't work in RV life. Like everything's going to break. Like we recently did a factory tour somewhere, and they told us their engineers like had nailed down that I think it was 65 miles per hour was the equivalent of a 7.3 earthquake. So whatever that is, don't quote me on that. But if you took a house and you shook it at 7.3 for 20 minutes, let alone a 5-hour drive, things are going to fall off in your house too. You know what I mean? Like it just happens. And so, but accepting that and really like stomaching it is much more palatable. Like when I had a 1 and a 2-year-old, it was really hard when my ACs went down in Northern Virginia. We were in Northern we were in central Arizona in July and heading into southern Utah where there were no techs whatsoever, and our front AC went out, and it was 100 degrees in our in the house, and we had babies. That was really hard. Those first 2 years, and really learning and accepting it, and now being able to just realize I can't control it. I can't control everything. It's going to happen. So, whether we've learned a lot ourselves and can do a lot ourselves now, but I think that was probably my biggest challenge. We've had.
Well, our suspension broke when we were in Mexico, driving down Baja. That was pretty significant. Talk about no tech access, literally it broke down
language barrier.
houses. And we went to a suspension shop, and they came out and they created custom.
They fabricated the hangers.
They fabricated them and
But what is it? He's like, we got to the shop. What is he talking about? We broke down in the middle. We broke down in the middle of a 2-lane highway with cliffs on both sides. Something didn't feel right, and we pulled over on a safe area and got out. And sure enough, our hanger had completely stripped off. So we ended up having to disconnect, leave our RV in the middle of nowhere. It was
But that was one of the reasons we bought the fifth wheel, was a little more space. But also, it's the truck we decided to go with, and all the research we did, talking to all these people, everything just to figure out if it was going to be the right truck. Where the truck is the most secure thing we have.
Yeah.
So if anything ever happens with the rig, we don't know anything.
You ditch the rig.
We drop the rig and we drive to where we need to go, get a safe system set up, and then we'll figure the rig out later. Yeah. As important as it may or may not be.
Yeah.
But one thing we've just done over the years while we start to learn to deal with small issues is to obviously keep accountability. We need to check the seals. Oh, there was heavy hail or this and that. Is just going around the rig and getting familiar with it. It looks like
Blake actually has a name for this. What's it called?
What?
You're gonna look. Just look at it.
Just take a look.
Just take a look. Yeah, just take a look.
Just take a look at anything. And most of the stuff on the RV, it's you can fix with self-tapping nails, a couple of screwdrivers and a decent drill, because it's not as mechanically inclined as it seems.
Super intuitive.
A lot of the stuff is just, it's put together. So can you put it together yourself, or do you need a welder to come do it?
Yeah.
And once you start to look through the rig and honestly evaluate how simple it's put together, there's a beauty in that. Some of it's very complex and some of it's so simple. It's it takes away so much anxiety to see the TV fell down again. It's just a simple fix, or some of it fell down, those little things, you get the anxiety away from it, because it's just the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing for us getting on, is everybody's it's going to break, it's going to do this. And it's most of it really, almost all of it, the issues we've encountered are things that we can take care of ourselves. Yeah. Or one of us is, more interested, it's a lot of time her, in doing the research and fixing it ourselves. Yeah. You really have the power. And once something's broke, it's not going to be unfixed. So, those things sound crazy and chaotic when you first get on the road, but honestly, they're the truth, like anything else. You just have a lot more ownership than being in a traditional house, because better than anybody when things are getting loose or not fitting right, or, and those are just the checks, check and recheck, just like pilots do.
Yeah. And as far as repairs and maintenance, that's, I think 90% is me, but we have our things, right? And his are more of the critical things. Well, they're both, but we always have, you said, take a look. It's true. We've been working on a little series, an idea, take a look series on take a look at this. These are things you should be checking. And naturally now, we don't even think about it. When I walk around the rig to go dump tanks or whatever, I'm looking at all the seals. I'm checking everything, just making sure it's just now second nature, right? When we pull over to get gas or diesel, or we pull over at a rest stop, whatever, I get out and I go back and I look at all of our hangers. I look at all of our leaf springs. I just pop under there and I look at everything, because it's now because I know it can break. And I know that, that it's just, those are the things we're constantly evaluating and checking. But yeah, we do mostly everything ourselves. Big projects though, so we're putting in new air conditioners. We have a friend that does that with us, and it shows us, so then I know how to fix it when we're out on the road or whatever. I love that kind of stuff. So,
but techs, you call because you have to build your network, from referrals, and sometimes you just have to go brand new. They are the same as the people who are selling you your RV. You interview them and hear what they have to say, especially, we've seen people who want to get more custom work done in their rig, and they're having the guy who's a tech do it, or the person who's a tech do it. And sometimes I'll talk to them for like 2 or 3 minutes, just, they're
He doesn't know what
there.
he's talking
And I'm
about.
like, I wouldn't let him do any of this work, in my house, much less build customizations around it. But that's the thing is like, don't understand that it's going to happen and don't be really freaked out about it, because you know what, most RV parks aren't so full all the time that they're going to say, yeah, you got to drag it out of here right now. Like, okay, well, what's your plan? And you talk to a good tech eventually or get a recommendation, and then you can get stuff fixed. But we want to make sure we tell everybody, like, make sure you took a look yourself, and talk to somebody ahead of time, so it doesn't seem like they're just coming out of there and tearing your stuff up, or worse, doing nothing and still charging you for it.
And get up on your roof. Like, getting up on the roof, people don't do that enough, and that's where like all the problems start. And so get up on your roof, check your roof regularly. And I think something else, I literally was just going back and forth with someone on Instagram the other day about a seal, because I don't think that we realized this for a couple of years. Water needs a way to exit. So if water gets in your RV, that's not necessarily a big deal. Like, if it's getting into your RV and it has a way to get out of your RV, it's okay. It's when it comes in and it can't escape. So like things like checking your seals underneath, those shouldn't be. If it's not sealed currently, it shouldn't be. But like, people don't realize that, and then they seal it, or it was sealed incorrectly by the manufacturer. Then
that's the other side of it, is like, I love when stuff happens and you can use ingenuity to take care of it.
Hold on.
Have you or a loved one been affected by RV problems? Well, don't worry, we've got you covered. Enjoy a 14-day free trial with access to master RV technicians via video call. It's easy. Just click the link below, fill out the form, or give us a call today. 866-BISH-FIX. Sweet. Anything else you want to share on that portion? Challenges, solutions.
Just look, like, always be looking for.
Well, that's all I was saying is, it's great to create solutions. Like, don't be afraid to use ingenuity. Sometimes I go to Home Depot and I just figure it out. But yeah, there are limits. There are limits to it. There are limits to it. Like, if the manufacturers have done something, there are reasons for it as well most of the time. So, but again, it's just research. It's like,
we've said that like 4,000 times.
Yeah, but that is, I think, the cure for so much is just a little bit of research, and the answers are normally, kind of right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's kind of like move on to the next thing here. So with all that challenge solutions, I mean, with the research and all that, I mean, financially, this does take a different idea to it, right? Someone scanned the QR code. No one scanned the QR. How did they do that?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. There's no one on here. This isn't live. Anyway, so. Yeah, no, it's not. There's two different things here. So, but anyway, so challenge solutions, you go talking about maintenance and repairs. So like financially, it's a totally different idea, because like it does break down, right? So financially, how do you sustain your lifestyle between whatever you guys do? You do content creation. You guys do a great job at it. That you built yourself a heck of a following. But are there any specific tips you can offer to someone trying to earn an income on the road? And what budgeting advice would you give someone considering the full-time RV life? Because it's not the same as your mortgage and insurance and all that. I mean, depending how you guys got into it, if you sold your house and then used all that money to get into this, it's a different aspect. There's more to the docket when you're living in an RV.
Yeah, we recently have been sharing our budget monthly, and it's like people have so many opinions on it. And I started sharing it because I get so many questions about it. Like, how much do you spend on this and how much this? And I can tell you what we started with as our budget. Okay, I can tell you 4 years ago what we started with, what my estimates were. And they actually still, quite frankly, are about where we thought they were going to be. But we spend, like, we're about convenience. We want to be in good parks. We want to be in, like, and we also want to be sometimes not. And so I share that to show that variation, and people go crazy. Like, they, you shouldn't be spending that much money at restaurants. Well, who are you to tell me how much I should spend at restaurants?
It's my life.
Yeah, that goes, well, I'm putting it out there, and that's fine. But like, I'm not asking for your opinion on how to save money. But I think that it's, because it's more about sharing that knowledge. Like, if you think you're going to spend $300 a month camping and you're going to do that traveling and you're not going to have a camping membership, like that's not possible unless you literally plan to live at, Cracker Barrel to Cracker Barrel to Cracker Barrel to Pilot to whatever, but let's go to how we sustain. So how we live. So we both worked very hard. Like, I was in corporate America for quite a while, and made the decision to flip to full-time content creation, just this year. We had planned that, like we just spent 3 months in Europe. And so we planned that.
Nice.
Yeah, we actually go out of the rig like a few months every year to Southeast Asia. We've been kind of 16 countries actually. But we have that. We have our social media income, and then we have, that's it, and it works. If we had payments on our truck and RV, I think that you have to be very mindful that it aligns with your income, because too many people have been flipped. You know, they've taken out they have these very large payments, and it's hard to sustain. So don't come into this not having a career that you can work remote or that's on board with you doing this, like, unless you have a plan. And we know plenty of people who work camp. Great way to do it. Discounts on your site, or your site's free and you're bringing in money. But do the research to make sure you know what it is you're going to be bringing in, and make sure you've got a month of in between job travels or whatever it is. You know, anyone can do content creation. Like the world is open to that right now. Like there's so much opportunity there. And other ways to make income. But I mean, if anyone comes to me and is like, how can I make money? I'm like, well, what's your background? Like, what do you do? What's your current job? Like, can you work remote? You know, those are kind of, to me, very basic things like anyone would ask, like about if you're moving from one state to the next, like, are you going to keep your job? What are you doing? You know? So
it's the same. To me, it's exactly the same as living in a home. You know, you have X amount of dollars that come in a month, and you need to figure out what you want to do with those dollars. And, you know, that is one thing I do love about the lifestyle, as Sam was saying, is...
It's glaring right on me. This one.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm leaving it, just so you know.
That's one thing I think, you know, there's so many ways to make money. You can make money at campsites, you know, that you want to be involved with in very nice places, or you can just look at the surrounding area. You know, we meet people who just get to a place and they start looking up handyman jobs, or they look at that ahead of time and they're like, okay, well, here are three areas.
I don't think that's a good plan, though. I don't think that's a good way to start.
No, I don't. I think it's completely fine. You have to go with what your personality is, and that's part of the journey. Is like, you know, it normally people, yes, they're like, well, how do you afford all these things? But the biggest thing is most people know themselves enough and know what their styles are. So they need to figure out where their style's at. You know, some people that means they have a lot of money in advance, and some people that means they pay as they go.
Yeah.
I think that the big thing just to know is that every area is going to be different, and you're going to have to do the research and the work.
Yeah.
You know, just like you did when you found your rig. There are so many ways to make money, and there are so many ways to cut expenses, but it's about having the discipline and sacrifice to do that.
100%.
Yeah. The planning, I mean, you know, there's affiliate marketing, which I'm sure you guys got into a little bit, you know, discount, promo codes, whatever it may be, pushing this product, pushing that product. And you see it all the time. That's what social media is nowadays. I mean, it's more ads. You almost see more ads about something than you don't. I mean, obviously people have lifestyle stuff, but it works.
But they gotta build that. You have to build a following. I mean, you have to build an audience that's going to buy from you those products and things like that. Like that, I think those, you know, I wouldn't suggest someone get into the, you know, the MLM stuff or like those types of things. And I think that's, for me, is like, if you're going to choose to get into the lifestyle, like I would have a solid plan on what your income's going to be like, because this is the worst case scenario. And this is, the worst case scenario, we've seen this also time and time again, is folks that took out a big loan on their RV and a big loan on their truck, and now they're flipped and they hate it. They don't want to live in an RV anymore. And that, I don't even like, I don't know how that would be like, to me, the worst situation in the world, because it's tiny space, it's confined, and you're miserable. Like have the financial, like, so contradictory to my, like, just go out there and do it, is like, have the financial plan on how you're going to sustain your lifestyle, because it can be challenging. We've known plenty of people who've gotten off the road and hated it. Like, just, it doesn't work for everybody. So,
there's the simple things you have to also adhere to that we do ourselves. Like, oh, we're going to go to this place and it's in a hot area. Like, well, let's plan to stay there a month, because the monthly rate is so much more incredible than the weekly rate. Even if you only stay 3 out of the 4 weeks, oftentimes.
You mean hot area, like cool area, not like
cool
high
area. You know, a high demand area. It's like, you know, and making that choice to pay for the month. It's doing things like that. Knowing that you're going into an area that's going to be so saturated with tourism at the point that maybe going out and eating isn't the best thing. So eating at home more, like, those are kind of the small things you start to get the tempo on how your own ecosystem works. And so you can plan well in advance about, hey, we're going to this area. Let's just make sure we have enough food at the house from the bulk food store versus, again, going grocery shopping in the area with that high tourism. That's really can cost you to spend a ton more money every single month.
Yeah.
Those little things you pick up and, on how to save the money. And really, I think the people who haven't been as successful, it's because they didn't have the plan and they got upside down, but also they weren't cutting their experience. They weren't maximizing their experiences and cutting back on the things like eating out and doing the high dollar items. Like going hiking is a lot less expensive than going out for, the Disney cruise that's one day because you want to be in the area and say that you did it. Those are some of the things that you have to sacrifice from time to time when you're still learning how to balance your travel budget.
Yeah.
But
and
knowing
slow
that,
down.
right.
Slow down. I think that's something like people do. Like their first year is they go way too fast. And you didn't ask this question. You just asked about finances. But I think that's something that's important for people. It's like, take your time. Like we did 34, 28 or something states our first year. And we just happen to be, the people that do that usually are like done by year 2. Like meaning they're over it because it's just too fast to travel and they're not relaxing at all. But I think that's something, like I say, is like definitely slow down and smell the flowers. Like,
and negotiate. Always negotiate. Anytime we're going anywhere, we're like, what discounts do you have? What about this? What about that? Because by and large, there is a lot of flexibility. Most places aren't the, mega commercial resort that has, 65 locations nationwide. It's like they have one location or 2 locations. So you can have a lot of conversations with them to get the things that you want out of it, even like staying in 55 and older communities in Arizona during snowbird season can be a tumultuous task. But you talk to people and talk
you just
to
wear a wig. What are you talking about?
You talk to people and talk to people, and then eventually it's like, oh, we found people who they just want good people at their RV spot. They're not actually caring if they're 55 and older. And now we're staying at a really inexpensive spot full of decent people because they just vetted. But we talk to them,
Yeah.
So that's one thing you never know if you don't ask, and that does save a lot of money on the road.
Yeah.
At stores, at everywhere, it saves a lot of money just to ask people for help and negotiate.
Yeah. So be smart, live within your means, negotiate a little bit. It's common practice, right? But people just don't think about it. They're like, oh, it's I'm on vacation. No, this is how you live now. This is like, you gotta be smart with that. Unless you're some trust fund baby that's got money rolling in from each corner. No, not everybody has that. And financially, this is not the cheapest way to live by no means, but
it can be cheap for people. It can be.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you let boondocking, dry camping, whatever it may be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Camping, those are,
And if you have a tighter budget, those are the things that you have to look at. How often are you going to stay off the grid or stay at the free places to stay as well? And you can always mitigate and manage your budgets that way.
Absolutely. So I think we nailed that on the head. And financially, budgeting, I think you guys crushed it on that. So you guys have been doing this for about 5 years now, pushing 5 years. And you've kind of built your own following. You've done great at that. You got pushing 150 to 200 altogether, or something like that.
Altogether.
Altogether, you're killing it. I don't know about YouTube. I didn't check that.
Thought about that. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. But anyway, so like you guys left your home states, friends and family, like connecting with them, staying connected. You have some sort of Starlink or some sort of like that. You still get to talk to them, but how do you stay connected with friends and family while traveling? And have you found a sense of community within the RV world? So, because everybody that I've talked to has seemed to find tons of friends, tons of new friends, whether it be full timers or part timers, and then new friends along the way, whether they meet them at a coffee shop, whatever it may be. But what does community connection look like for you guys?
So how we keep in touch and like that, I think that's first. We always visit people. Like we have friends. He obviously has people from the military all over the country. So we have friends and we've seen a lot of friends, and friends come and see us as well, because we now can, they can stay with us. We have plenty of space for people to stay with us. But so we are able to do that. But we pretty much plan in our routes to see and visit people. We'll go pretty far out of our way to spend time with people. As far as community, that is an interesting question, because I feel a really strong sense of community in this space, and I feel very comfortable. Like you have a commonality, and it's a little bit deeper than just like, hey, you're my neighbor for 10 days or 5 days. I feel a lot. I can chat with people and talk with people, and we do. Regularly. I do a lot more of that than Blake does, as far as like just being out and around and talking to people, because that's how I am. And I enjoy it. We've made plenty of friends on the road that you keep in touch with via social media, and you see their stories, so you know where they are. Hey, we're going to be in this area too. Like, should we link up, connect? You know, we've done that quite a bit. And those are the same people you're maybe complain about too, like when you're having an issue with RV life, whether it's, you know, just small space issues or whatever it is. Those are those kind of friends. Because my friends that before this, like, they're like, girl, I don't know what to tell you. You chose to live in 200 square feet. Like, you're crazy. So they have like no advice, you know. But the full timers is definitely, there is a very big sense of community. I think specifically people that participate with like full-time families. We don't participate with full-time families. It's just never been our thing. I don't even really know much about it. I know there's a communities there. We're not a part of that. But I think we tend to just migrate towards people that we have a lot more of commonalities with. And that does happen because Blake's military history, there's a lot of vets that are a part of this. I'm pretty sure you've interviewed a few of them or had them on the podcast. There's definitely a lifestyle. The lifestyle aligns a lot with veterans, I feel like. But what do you think? I mean,
you have everybody, you know, it's the same. You're connected with people on your phones and social media, email, letter writing if you want.
The kids.
Yeah. I think that, you know, it is different. But for me, I've been able to connect with so many people that I would have never seen again, you know, especially from the military, but just in life. I think once you start traveling, I think there's, you know, kind of everybody has people in their daily lives that they end up spending a good amount of time with because they see them at other events, and they're not people necessarily that they want to be around all the time, but there's kind of that obligation there, whether they have the same friend group or family. And as we started to travel, it gave us the opportunity to really narrow down on the people that we want in our circle and who are influencing us. So I feel like now my circle's tighter than ever. Because some of those, you know, relationships we were able to shed, if you will. So for me, that's been great. But reconnecting with those people who, from my past, that I did have meaningful relationships with, it's now enabled that. And now some of those people are traveling to see us, or just reconnecting with some people on her side of the family that we didn't get to see enough. It's enabled us to have those interactions. And that's more where I focus on my circle is, you know, those interactions that I look forward to and that I want that enrich my life, and less of more of the casualness that can happen with, you know,
do you see the difference? Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's rich,
but it works.
And I also really enjoy that we have time to ourselves. You know, we will sometimes, and it's awesome, and when it works out like that, we will get hit with, you know, like we were in Nashville recently, so we had some family there. I had friends who happened to be there at the same time. We saw them.
We had like 5 visitors.
You know, they were there for a conference. They were there for a guys' weekend. Then a cousin was there. All of that was so awesome. But after
then we drove away.
After that, you know, session ended, it was like, man, I'm looking forward to us having a week or two where it's just us.
Yeah.
You know, where we can have a bunch of these similar adventures and exploration time, but it's just our family, and that's where all my focus can be. You know, so that's, for me, gives me more balance, because I do like to make sure I'm giving good segments of undivided attention and focus to my family. And I think that helps us become tighter as well. And we get to get both. So it's like right when you start to, oh man, I need to go talk about something, you run into people or you meet people on the road, and, you know, I'm open to all of that. But as far as continuous communication, I do like maintaining my circle.
Yeah, we do have like we started recently, which I haven't done a lot with because we went to Europe, like I mentioned earlier. I started a group on Facebook for camping veterans, like for vets who camp, because we do find that like we connect pretty much immediately when we're walking the dog or something. We start talking to people. Like, it's like once you have that, you kind of just immediately sync up. And I think most of our friends that we've made on the road one of them is a vet.
Yeah.
So, you know,
the places you go back to, you know, people,
yeah.
Even if you don't talk to them, like know their names, like, oh, you were there. And there's always those little bonds. And exactly, you know, there's that rig again, there's that dog again, or
exactly,
the guy who walks around without his shirt off all the time, like whatever.
All the time.
Yeah, there's community. I literally wore this just for you. Just so you know.
We did a podcast previously with a tech, an RV tech, and he's like, "Are you gonna wear your shirt?" Like, yeah, he never had a shirt on. Anyways, you haven't been in a lot of content lately, though. You've been gone, and
But those, you know, and then we do visit people. Like I just went to visit friends She went to visit
outside of the rig,
so outside of the rig. So it's that good. It's a good mix of everything. I think it's kind of standard, but I do think it is more dialed in for me at least because I have to make a choice to go interact with people. Versus again, I'm not seeing maybe people I don't want to because they're in my office or same friend circle and whatnot. And I do kind of value that. It's like let me be a little more attentive to my relationships as well because I'm like I have to do something about it. I have to be intentional. I'm not going to run into my buddies at the store. So it's been, I think, a lot.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on it. Like being present is the normality of life is it kind of does take away from that sometimes. Like you're just like, oh, this is what it is. You guys, we're getting beers on Friday. For me, a beer on Friday with some of the guys here at work is like one of the best things of the week, which not the best thing to say, but it is. It's like, oh, I get to kind of wind down, talk about the monotony of it all. But it's getting a tight knit circle at least. Especially the farther I go into life, and I still have a friend group back home that's like, we're like this. We've been like this since 25 years ago, So I completely understand the whole tight knit circle, and then obviously you're going to meet new people along the way. You don't disregard them by no means, but it's like, do I need you? Or are you just kind of a passing by? Whatever. It's like, you're open to it, but it's
an RV life. Like you have a lot of that, and you have to be aware of that when you start, like. Because otherwise it's, you're going to be trying to meet up with people left and right. And no, now I'm totally comfortable with like, hey, it was really great to meet you. Maybe we'll see you down the road. Like, because it's okay that we shared a campfire and sat around for 4 hours and talked about what broke in our rig or what our kid did silly that week or whatever. But it's like, I'll see you down the road. We don't need to exchange texts or anything else. Like, and that's kind of cool.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
what do you say?
What? I don't know.
Sorry.
Oh, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's just there's people you do meet around, like, hey, we're going to be here at this time. Like, if you guys are going to be there, and that's cool. You really get a lot of options around it. I think to engage as much as you want to.
Yeah. So you've been to most of the states now, and you've done for 4.5 years. You've been on the road. Obviously, you've had some favorite experiences. So what are some of those memorable experiences you've had or favorite destinations? And what are some unexpected benefits you've received or come to know within the RV lifestyle? You said happiness was a byproduct. So there's one.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm happy now because I'm in an RV.
I didn't know I wasn't. No, I mean, there's nothing better than being able to sleep in your own bed in all of these places. Like, I know that that's like overlooked and sometimes, and it's talked about a lot. Like, but you really think about that. Like when I can look out my window and look over the Badlands in my own bed, like that's pretty cool. As far as like some of my favorite like places we've been, so Baja was incredible, and we plan to go back. We just don't know when. I don't want to take this big, huge thing down there. This is our like baby. And so, I'd love to do like something smaller and go down and redo Baja again because it was incredible. We're big beachgoers. We definitely lean towards hot. We would like it hot. People follow 70, we follow 80. So I think Baja was incredible. For me, like the core of the West, like the Yellowstone and the glacier, that all the way down to even Utah, like there's just nothing like that. We just got back from Switzerland and Austria, Germany, and I mean, truly, like those are just, we have an incredibly beautiful country, and seeing it in pictures and seeing it, for a week or something like that here and there, like or a national park trip or something is amazing, but it's not just the national park, it's everything around Glacier. It's the beauty just does not stop. So I'd say like for me, the West is definitely where it's at from a RVing standpoint, like getting to see things. But I think Baja, Utah's beautiful.
I always tell people that, we're like professional travelers. So, and I say it like that because we now have such a different criteria of what's great, so for me, it's not, there really is not one place or even five, but it's like, where would I spend a season of time, because it's going to be perfect for that season, depending on what your preferences are. But for sure, going to Glacier National Park was
going to the Sun Road,
just so much more than I could have fathomed, because we left Yellowstone and I'm like, man, Yellowstone was just, there's no way to describe it. It is absolutely the pinnacle of what the outdoors are, and the animal, the animal to nature interaction to human is great. But then the beauty going to Glacier, there's no way to top that as well. And that we did one after the other, and Glacier still had such an impact on our family. But there's a lot in that area as far as the way that people live around that park that make it special as well.
Special good.
Special good. You know, the way they like have springs that they preserve, that people from all across town are coming to get water out of the spring, and then running fishing, but not overfishing the areas. And there's still, plenty of space to go look at a river and look at a mountain to see bears or, fauna walking around. It's like, that's what I enjoy a lot. But Montana.
What's your favorite place though?
That's what I mean. It's
what about
like
Maine? We forgot Maine. Maine deserves to be.
It's like a place where you can settle in for a season is top of the list. And I'd say like Maine, Oregon has a lot of that with their magnificent big beaches.
Yeah.
But when I start to travel, I'm always excited of where we're going next, because now being a professional, I know what to look for, and I get a really good eye on how to set up our week and the activities we're going to be doing, or the couple weeks we're going to be there. So it's like getting there in maximum satisfaction, because every time we go somewhere, you figure out how to cut the fat, and you're always trimming the fat. So it's like you can, and then when we get to a place and it's not exactly great, it's like, oh, well, we just needed to be in a little bit of a different area. And that's what provided us that season to stay there.
Yeah.
So learning that and being able to figure that out is really half the fun for me. So it makes a lot more places that maybe some people think are undesirable. It makes them really great for me, because I get to figure out that equation and experience it still.
Yeah, the check box is what you need to do at each of these places, instead of all the fluff and stuff that you don't need to go to. Like, I don't really need to go to that thrift store. There's no reason to do that. We'll hit that on the end if I need a T-shirt. If I really like this place, I'll get a T-shirt, but I don't need one.
It sounds corny, but it's true. Even like Florida, it's like so great, even though there's some undesirable areas. It's like Florida has everything from beaches to different type of beaches to bears, alligators, snakes. I mean, there's just such a wide range of what you can get in Florida.
Yeah.
And how many people have just gone to the one beach there, So it's like being able to experience that whole place makes it difficult to say one place is better than the other, because it's like everything is just a little tweak away from being perfect.
Most makes total sense. And I'm jealous you've been to Glacier. That one's way up on my list. So is Zion and stuff like that. The Narrows, Angel's Landing, whatever it may be. Havasupai Falls. I mean, I need to live in a van. I really do. I just haven't decided to do so yet.
All the rivers.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Like up here, I just go like, we have some of the best fly fishing, just fishing in general, trout fishing, whatever it may be. It's incredible out here. I've only not even scratched the surface of what I can do here.
That's
but
fun.
Yeah.
W area and Idaho is like, wow, there's so much beauty up there.
Yeah. It's somewhat a secret, but it's getting out.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. We need to revisit that area. We did that our first year, so we were fast. And so we're planning on doing all of the West, kind of that all again.
Yeah. Well, let us know when you come back through.
Yeah. Sure.
But anyway, so we've gone over quite a bit of advice for beginners, but what other advice would you give someone that's trying to transition into the full-time RV life? Because there's obviously a lot to know, but like, what are your how about this? Look back at yourself 4 years ago and what would you say to yourself? Like these 3 things.
It's going to last a lot longer than 2 years.
Okay.
I think I would have slowed down from the beginning if I'd known. That's definitely, I would have done things differently there.
I mean, we did it, so it's hard to, give that advice, but I think that is it. It's like, make the plan and work the plan. Of course, there's going to be adjustments, but the skeleton, the fundamental values of your plan, if you have a good one, then don't let the fear stop you. That is a big one. It could have stopped. It literally, all the time, I'm like, what if we would have just waited 1 year? What if we would have said no? What if anything differently than man, we have a good plan and we're willing to take this risk? Everything right now would be different. So taking that, managed risk is 100% worth it. And no matter what, you're going to come out with something that you didn't have before, regardless of how good or bad it is. You're going to come out with that, and that is super valuable for life.
Yeah.
I really do.
I mentioned the other things I would have told myself hey, stuff's going to break, life goes on. It's okay. Just keep going with it. It's about the journey. It's about, those things. We talked about that earlier. So I feel like I've given
and doing it the way that works for you is the biggest one. No matter what you get for advice, no matter what all the experts or anything, it's find the way that specifically works for your lifestyle and what you want out of the next, the future you.
Yeah.
And for us, getting good rigs has helped with that so much, because a little bit of a different rig, even if it had this, that, and the third, would have messed up our first couple years on the road.
Oh, buy the right size rig for sure.
You know, but having those things and travel the way you want to travel, and that it's really powerful once you start living life like that and looking at things like that. And I don't think it's selfish. I think it's like the way to view the next journey, you know, next part of your journey is like what's working for you and why are you taking that path, you know, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
You know, I guess self-reflection, you know, might be.
So question real quick. I mean, you say like have a plan, managed plan, like you want to have like this is my plan. What are like the three things within that plan? So like budget, money wise, what are you going to do for a job? Planning a route, is that part of it? What else would be in there?
Well, you know, where do you want to go? What do you want to do?
What do you want to do? What do you want to see? Where do you want to go?
Then you can plan routes around that.
Yeah. Route planning is easy. People, I think, put way too much effort into that. But if
that
you're
is
doing
something we would have told ourselves.
Yeah, right.
We thought,
take your time.
Man, you need 3 months each place, 2 months. You need to plan all this. It's going to be so hard. And now it's like we're driving down the road sometimes.
Like, where are we going to stay tonight? And, you know, like,
you know,
yeah. Right now we have nowhere after this weekend, and we haven't pulled the trigger. We don't know which direction we're going. Like, so, you know, I think you realize like you don't have to plan out 6 months. And quite frankly, it creates a lot more chaos if you do, because we did that, and for not 6 months, but like we plan a month out, and then something would break, and then we'd be like, oh crap, we can't go. And then all of a sudden, all these 3-day reservations, because we were crazy travelers, then I have to bump each one of them back. It was like a total
sometimes
nightmare.
that costs money, but give yourself grace and then limit the have-tos. You know, the have-tos especially before you discover who you are in this new lifestyle. The have-tos keep you the same. They mess up your plans. You know, really like go into it all the way and give yourself the grace to like and hate things, because this is all brand new and it's going to change your preferences a lot. And if you have a bunch of have-tos, it makes it difficult to experience some of the nice changes of this lifestyle.
Awesome. So you guys, I mean, yeah, just kind of leave it up to the air, leave it up to fate a little bit. You know, if you have a change of plan, you can do so. Obviously, if you have actually planned out dates of where you're going to stay, that might be a little bit of an issue. But it sounds like you guys are pretty good at just like going with the flow and like, hey, throwing a dart at the board. Let's go do that.
You have the main plan, you know, on how you live, like you said, your budget, all those things. The rest of it is the fun part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So future plans, where are you going next? Sounds like you might not know.
No, literally, we don't know. He's like, you want to go to Roswell? And we're like, we're going to go to Pensacola, like beach or desert. I mean, we're just, we don't know. We definitely want to make it to Alaska. We have 5 states left. And they're kind of like all in weird places. So I don't know. We'll see. We're sort of torn. We are going to do some colder weather wintering this year, which is new for us and typically something we would avoid like hardcore, but we're going to step outside of our comfort zone, and the kids want to have a white, you know, Christmas experience. And so we're going to give it a whirl. We've been researching all the winter RV type things. So our plan is to get to Colorado at some point here this winter.
Skirting.
I don't know if we'll do that, but there's lots of.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100% that. And then I don't know, we really want to go to Alaska, and we've been pushing it. So that's something we're trying to gear up to in a big way, is just figuring out our rig situation, the routes. Like that is one fun part about this journey is, you know, you're digging into what this next dream is, and it's like happening in real time.
Yeah.
You know, it's not 10 years away. It's literally just.
Yeah, you're living your dream. As cliche as it sounds like, and you're making your dream like happen daily.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. Like when I create content about that and I put that, like, I feel like a little bit of a cheese ball, because I'm like how many people aren't going to believe this? But that is our life, you know, like Blake was just away for like 5 or 6 days, and he wrote me a text. And he's like, I just can't believe like being like so fortunate. Like we're so lucky to have this lifestyle. I was like, we worked hard for this. Like we did, this didn't just fall into our lap, you know, but it is an incredible lifestyle.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm happy for you guys. Everybody I talk to, it's just like, why am I doing what I'm doing? So I'm like, I'll get there eventually. I swear to God. But it's just different, you know. I mean, the whole like the buy house, do this, like there's a timeline for everything. It just never clicked with me. I mean, even since a young age, I'm like, I always wanted to build homes because that's what I wanted to do. But then I started building homes, and I'm like, I can't keep anybody happy. If I'm going to build a home, build it for myself and sell it then way. It's just you live and you learn. But the fact that you guys are living your dream is flipping awesome. I mean, it really is. And I'm happy for you guys, really, truthfully. But next question, we're getting towards the end here. You guys do have your own little link tree. So I'm going to pull this up here right away. This is part of financially. I mean, this is part of how you guys make some money, on affiliate links, whatever it may be. You push products, promote products, and all that. Because you've done this, you've been there in the industry, you've used these products, and that's what you like to use. So what are some favorite gadgets and gizmos? I'm guessing they're in this link tree here, but that you like within the RV industry and let you come to know, like, this is, I wouldn't want to be RVing without these things.
Well, I make because I do like on Saturdays typically is kind of my day where I do like my hacks that usually are the products that I find that are like all of a sudden I'm like, wow, this is incredibly useful. And they're all, I mean, they're in our Amazon store, which isn't our link tree, but like the ones that I've just recently done are like, I always just put the direct link right at the top of our bio. Because, you know, I think, so water filter, that like, I had no idea how bad you need a water filter. Water filtration is so critical when you're traveling around the country, and the water quality is, I mean, the plastics we're all drinking and we all have in our systems is, I mean, it's disgusting. But so don't skip a water filter. Like, make sure you get a solid water filtration system. We have a Blue Tech. It's like a triple canister system. We love it. We have all their products as well. And we do work with them. But their product is amazing. We've been through others before. Other gadgets that I think like I didn't see that question. I thought I was prepared. I don't recall seeing that question.
Good. It was there.
The dishwasher.
No, I can tell you a bunch. You know, having good sewers matters a ton. Like not having sewer hoses.
Oh, hoses. Yeah.
Good sewer hoses is a big one. Something to treat your tank from time to time. Like,
these are your favorite gadgets.
Oh, 100% it is, because
must-haves.
You know, you don't want to ever have it stink, and normally there's a balance you have to have with bacteria in those tanks. Yeah. So having something to treat that smell is great.
Our flag holder too.
The flag holder is really nice. We like having a flag out, so you know.
We love flying the American flag.
I would say one of the things we
got. That's an anchor RV lock. It's called an anchor.
One of the things we got in the beginning was a booster, not just a surge protector. But a voltage booster. And sometimes we, especially in the beginning of our travel, hit some parks that did not have consistent power, and that can really jack up your whole circuitry.
I don't even have that in our link tree at all. Like that we do, yeah. We love
but
that.
Having that, it immediately tells us, especially when I didn't know a lot about this or really how to identify like this is just not used versus this needs to be changed when it comes to the outlets. That gave me a lot of confidence. You're not giving enough
context, but you know, most people have a surge protector, so it protects from surges. What we have is it protects from drops, so it boosts up. It has like essentially like capacitors inside of it. Anyways, so that thing has saved us a few times.
But it'll tell you,
and it's also a surge protector. Right. But these are the must-haves for sure. Is like your water filtration, your surge protector. Like must-haves. Those are like we have a whole list. There's RV GPS. Like, don't do it without an RV GPS. Don't use Google Maps. Don't use get a GPS, either a trucker GPS, something that you enter your height and your length in it. Otherwise, like you're gonna hit a bridge.
Also, one thing is there's just screw on for the valve stems on your tires. There's just a screw on.
These are not your favorite gadgets.
Here's the thing. These things are overlooked because they work so well and they've given us the peace of mind. When we first got on the road, these are the things that we worried about the most. Like, man, we went through a bunch of debris in the road. Like, I wonder if our tire pressure's off, or do you feel that shaking? Is it the road? Having those Bluetooth gauges that go on the valve stems to tell you that all your
our tire pressure management system. I thought you were talking about the new
TPMS.
TPMS. I didn't know that's what you were talking about. Of course that is. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about our.
Well, you didn't let me finish telling.
Sorry. What are the screw things? The caps. Yeah, I just got the tires worked on today on the truck, and so I thought that's
they're
TPMS.
They're
TPMS.
Right. Tire pressure gauge systems. That's a big one. You know, I would say those are the fundamentals, and like I said, they're so part of our foundation that obviously she's overlooking the value of not having her. You know, she doesn't remember the days when those were problems for us, but
yeah, it's TPMS.
It's the simple things, for me that just keep things functioning and that give us peace of mind. The rest of the gadgetry, like those are all nice to have.
He doesn't like that. I'm like, I mean, all the nice things, like the cool things, the things we love that are cool and convenient.
A good set of tools, like a small amount. You don't need a ton, and I'm definitely not a grease monkey by any means, but a small amount of tools has given us so much peace of mind and allow us to fix so many of our problems.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there are a lot of people that understand that it's about 5 to 6, maybe 10 tool tops. Like you can go a long ways with an RV because a lot of the nuts and bolts are very similar, and then like you need maybe a little bit of a pipe wrench or something like that. A voltage meter, all these little things. I mean, it's not a whole lot, but it's enough to get you by for most of the things. Obviously, go ahead.
A bag like this, honestly.
Yeah, we're working. I know that we've talked about making like a toolkit for like beginning RVers. Like this is your must-have toolkit because it's going to go down like whenever, if not when, no when, not if.
Yeah, I've seen like these things that like the RV dealer. I've seen RV dealers like offer like a beginner kit, and I'm like, what? Like, who needed any of that stuff? So the toolkit is like an awesome idea. Like the accordion for your sewer hose. Like, we never use that. We've never used that. Again, I know a lot of people do. I'm just saying, like, don't give me that. Like, give me the proper like bits for these wonky square screws. That kind of stuff.
And then the last thing I would say is the door locks. For me, that security is a big one, and having I think the aftermarket door locks are better because the manufacturer of locks has like 200 tugs on it, and it's not meant for the in and out that you do in your RV life. Like you go in and outside a ton, and those locks wear out, and so replacing those to whatever works for you is a big one. And for me, it's given me a lot of peace of mind.
We're plugging RV lock because it's.
Well, yeah, we use RV lock, and they're great. But
oh, there it is.
Yeah.
But,
awesome.
Anybody will see that they don't nobody understands how much you go in and out when you have tiny living. It's just a lot.
And we shared like silly things that seem silly, is like water, like a gauge for water to know how much water you're putting into your tanks, to the propane, the propane gas reader, like to have these things are just little pieces of like peace of mind. Like they're small gadgets. They're great. Like they're very helpful to have, Anytime I think that's a good point. Anytime you're connecting to a site or using outside resources that you don't know the strength of, consistency, try to figure a way to put a barrier between that and your whether it's a pressure gauge regulator or quality with the filtrations. That is something we've done is put a buffer around our rig to make sure we connect into things and we have some degree of safety built into our side of the house.
Yeah. So basically the things that bring you peace of mind are probably the top of the list for you guys. TPMS, door locks.
Upgrade your suspension too, or make sure you have stuff if you're got a rig that's over 10,000 pounds.
Especially with you guys, the toy hauler. I mean, those things are heavy. I mean, they just are. And they're going to take a beating every time you go down the road. 7.3 summer earthquake, hurricane force speeds, all it is. I mean, I say this over and over every time I was selling. Like these things are going to fall apart. It's not if, it's when. I guarantee it. I 100% guarantee anything out of this conversation that you get from me, your RV is going to break.
Exactly.
And people would buy from me. Huh?
Do you tell people that when you sell them an RV?
Every time.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give you one guarantee out of this transaction, whether it's from me, somebody else on Facebook, whatever it may be, it will break down. Guaranteed.
Yes. Good.
And I mean, people wanted to drink beer with me afterwards. So yeah, it worked out.
Yeah. They love that transparency and honesty. Yes.
Yeah.
Cut the nerves off so much to have somebody reliable to work with in every situation.
Yeah. Well, guys, this has been awesome talking to you guys. You're full of information. I love it so much. But one more question. I know that you guys started off as doing like, hey, this is going to be a 2-year trial phase, wherever it may be. We're going to go out and we're just going to do it. But what's your why? Why do you keep doing so? I know you talked about your family, watching your kids grow up, watching those pivotal moments in your kids' lives, because that's important to you. But what are the other reasons why? If there is none, that's okay. I mean, we covered a ton of it, but what else would be the why?
Why not?
Hell yeah. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Heck yeah.
Like, I truly don't know. I've thought about it, and we mentioned we travel abroad a couple months every year, so we do change it up, and we do live in Airbnbs and stuff. But it feels like home to come back to it. I think the question is like, or not question this in my mind is like, I don't know, how are we ever going to live in a house that doesn't move again? And, you know, I'm sure the time will come and we'll know when that time's here. But right now that seems bizarre to me. Like to think to only be able to see the same thing every single day. Like I can't fathom it right now. And so that would be my question is why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I just think I can't get enough of this.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of, I guess, you know, unknowingly I'm a control freak about things. And right now I have control over as much as I can, you know, and all it's doing is bringing us great experiences. We're learning a lot and we're happy. And I can't like try not to glutton anything else in life, be gluttonous, but in this one area, it's like, I'm going to take as much as I can get. And we have seen people, unfortunately, had to learn some hard lessons, like seeing loved ones pass away early, things like that. And no matter what we're doing in this moment, and I sometimes morbidly tell Samantha all the time, like, if anything ever happens to me, just know I'm the happiest father and husband on the planet. Like, every day, one worry I never go to bed with anymore is, am I doing enough? Am I pursuing actually living life enough? And right now we're doing it. And it was my why before that I wanted to, and now it's my why because I'm doing it, you know. And no matter what we do next, I think even if we lived in a house, we have changed fundamentally as people. Our values are similar, but our drive to take ownership over our happiness, I don't think it'll ever be different. And that means all businesses and all life has to fit in that box, not us, you know, opening up the walls of the box and making, you know, sacrifices or making deals to sacrifice our happiness because we need a little bit of extra of somebody else's dream to work before our own does. So I don't know if honestly, it sounds all touchy feely, but it's just, you know, I think
that was powerful.
And you see it with people who are pursuing their dreams a lot. You know, those rhetorics, and everybody's dream is differently, but I think when they're pursuing it, even talking to you, it's like you can still see the happiness and the life that you have because, you know, like there's a little bit of this I don't like, but bang, 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 like here's all the things I like, here's what I'm doing, here's where I'm going. And you can tell that about you. Just, you know, this is our first kind of meeting face to face.
Truthfully.
That comes across when you talk to people. And a lot of times those are the whys that they have in common, I think.
Well, cool. I appreciate that. And that was powerful, man. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I was like, what? Yeah, you're nailing it. Yeah. That's awesome, guys. I mean, truthfully, I'm happy for you guys. You guys are chasing your dream and you're living it. And a lot of people don't get to see that. And a lot of people, again, you see it here. I mean, I work with, there's 100 some people in this office and like, yeah, well, they're great people and they're happy. Like, and they seem happy, but like, there's a definitely different norm out there that's becoming a different norm. And that's what you guys are doing. And that's why I want to show people that you guys can do this. Other people can do this. Whoever's listening to this, if you listen to this, you can do it too. I can do it too. I just haven't to choose to.
Do it. Like we've never done anything like it, and here we are, not even thinking about stopping. Like we're not handy people. We're not like. There's so many reasons. If we can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah, but you're doers, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And
not everybody has that.
Like that when you get on the road.
Yes.
What was that? I cut. Yeah. Just say it one more time.
No, you said you're doers, and I'm just saying once you start traveling and pursuing your goals, like you have to become that way. Yeah. Everybody does. Even if you weren't before, don't worry about any of that. You're going to have a whole new thing. Just start doing it and it'll work out. And then research shows like this to get some info. You know, it does cut the peace of mind so much to have just discussions like this, like you're doing. I do appreciate that part because not one person I think can do enough to expose how beautiful this lifestyle and community really is.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys being on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to share before I kind of do the closeout?
No, but we are available anytime.
Yeah, we're always here to help.
Anybody has questions, like it's, you know, but we'd love to see where you are. And
there you go again.
Next
Just
year.
Send us a message though. Seriously. Yeah.
Send us a message, but we'd love to catch up with you next year and see where everything's at. And, you know, it also helps us stay accountable. And then we learn a lot with these discussions as well. So we definitely appreciate you having us on.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys. And I'd love to catch up with you if you guys ever come through Idaho, somewhere around here, please stop through Boise. We'll get you in here. We're doing a whole new room makeover here shortly. This was a trial.
Yeah, the mountains get over.
Yeah, it's going to be, there's no real way to make a nice RV background that pertains to everybody. So it's going to be more like a cabin look with like some things.
There we go.
But we'll get to it, and it should be showing up here shortly. This was a trial phase, and it's starting to take off very well because of people like you jumping on the show. And so I appreciate your time as well. Guys, this is how you do it. Full-time lifers, they know what they're talking about, and they all the tips and tricks, follow the Titans. They've been doing a great job 4.5 years in this. They know their stuff. And likewise with the other people. I mean, even some that don't have the 150,000 followers, but they still know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time too. I've got people that have 10,000 followers, been doing it for 20 years. I'm like, goodness gracious, I got to talk to these people too. So
everybody.
Give these guys a follow. Give me a follow because I talk to manufacturers and other camping gear as well, and as full-timers as well. So if there's anything else there, give us a follow and stay tuned for more from the RV Voice.
Thanks.
Thank you.